So moving on again here, we just finished up what we started with, cradles on the mat. We moved into cradles on our feet offensively. Now we're going to move into some defensive cradles on our feet. The first thing we're going to start with is, let's go on this side, is off of a single leg. Now it could be off of a normal head inside single here, or it could be off of a low single, Tony's here. If it's off of a normal single, I need to turn it into a low single. So it could just be like normal single leg defense where I'm going to stuff his head. Ultimately, my goal is I need the back of my knee on the back of his neck. So I'm going to stuff the head. As his head goes down below my knee, I'm going to step to the side, turn a tiny bit there, and I'm going to keep the back of my knee on the back of his neck here. The whole goal of this is to keep his head down and keep it trapped. I'm going to take my back knee, now turn back the other way, just like I want them to see that. My back knee is actually going to go behind his hamstring. Go this way. So I'm going to get this knee behind his hamstring here. All right. So when I teach this, sometimes people get a little confused, but my toe is going to dig into the mat, and my toe is what's going to help me get this cradle. I'm going to be inching my leg forward to help me lock this up. Maybe turn a tiny bit more. So my knee steps here, and notice, without me actually locking, here, move your arm for a second, just so I don't hurt. Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing with my knee is just walking this up, which is bringing his leg closer to his head. Go ahead and bring your leg back a little. Obviously, my hands are going to be involved, but it's kind of hard to show everything. So in general, my knee's over his head. My arms are going to be hanging onto him. My head and chest are going to be over the top. My knee's going to come in here. Now, once I have this, if he goes, try to stay up. If he falls over, that's fine. But the point is I need to get this leg behind his hamstring. From here, my hand is following this knee under the leg. My other hand is going over his neck, in between my foot and his neck, and I'm locking my hands here. The more I have to bring his foot or his leg towards his head, if I have to get my hands locked, that's what I'll do. Now I have my hands locked with my 10-finger grip. Now I can let him go over the top. Now I have my hands locked. I can stay here. I don't like to stay here, but I can. So instead for me, I'm going to hip heist over and finish up on top. It's kind of hard to see what's going on from the camera angle on that. Try the other side here. So just going to head down. From here, turn just a tiny bit so they can actually see the hand, this front hand. So again, my weight's over top of him here. I step my back leg behind his hamstring. I'm starting to inch that together. My arm follows when it can. My front hand, which was on the back side of the camera you couldn't see before, is going to come through this gap right over his shoulder, right between my foot and his shoulder here. I'm not trying to pull his head towards his leg. I'm trying to walk his legs up towards his head. His head's trapped here. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm just inching that forward so I can get my 10-finger grip. As soon as I get that, I can unhook. Let me come here. Now, I can build up and come back out on top. Kind of go like, yeah, somewhat like kind of like tiny bit of an angle. Yeah, like that. So again, he shoots a low single. It's actually better if he shoots a low single because then I don't have to worry about defending the regular single. The position's going to be the same. I just have to step to the side and literally the back part of my knee goes to the back of his neck, and we're keeping weight there. I don't want him to be able to get height. If I just step here, I don't put any weight, he's going to be able to elevate, he's going to be able to finish his single. So as soon as this foot comes down, I kind of anchor myself in. That's why I'm like kind of holding on to the back of his hamstring. My other hand's got like a tight waist. I'm just kind of holding myself onto him and keeping as much weight as I can on his head so he can't elevate. From here, that's when I can adjust this back leg as best I can. If he falls down, this is fine. Oh yeah, go ahead. If he falls down to his hip, that's fine too. Again, he's kind of stuck here. Go ahead and, I don't know, do whatever you want to do. Yeah, so like he's kind of crunched together. So this is one that once I get him here, it's kind of just me being patient with getting my lock. So hand sneaks in, the back hand should meet it. My lock should be somewhere near his neck. If he can keep this foot if he wants, doesn't matter. He can hold on to that as long as he wants. That's perfectly fine. If he wants to stay there, that's great. Or I can free up my foot and adjust up and get my pins. I would say The hardest part about this is getting used to using that back leg to kind of push off of the back of his hamstring to push his butt towards his head, as opposed to trying to crunch his head. Your knee is crunching his head down. Everything else is just bringing his butt up closer and his legs up closer so you can get that lock. So this is just a really good way to get to your cradle off of your opponent's single leg. Plenty of other defenses off of a single leg, even other ways to put opponent to the back, but this is a good one. This also works really well in freestyle to get exposure points. But yeah, this is a cradle off of either a low single or off of a regular inside single. All right, continuing off of our cradles, off of our opponent's single leg or low single, we have another option here, and very similar to the one we just did. This one is a little less practical, fun to hit. I have hit it in real matches, so sometimes it is important to use it, but in general, this is one of those ones that's just more fun to hit. And it's very disrespectful to your opponent if you hit it. So, which I'm a very respectful wrestler, but it is a fun one to hit. So if you're trying to like impress a girl or something, maybe you do this if it's his girlfriend or something like that. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to show it to you. It's a leg cradle. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Getting my knee over the back of his head. I need to get my back knee behind his leg. If I don't get my leg back there, it's going to be really hard because I'm going to have to use my arm to try to fight his whole leg, his hamstring and everything here. That's not going to work. So I got to get my foot in place. And if you remember, I was saying I kind of anchor myself in, but I'm working this foot up here. Now, once I get to here, I can kind of sit back to my butt. I'd prefer not to, but the key is I'm getting this pinching motion with my knee, and then my other knee here is just staying tight. The more I drive this forward, the more it's putting pressure on his head. He's not going to be able to get it back. And then in general, I'm anchoring myself in. I would prefer to be up like this, especially for this leg cradle. I was just kind of sitting back so I could teach. But if I can keep up here, I'm on my toes. From here, to get a leg cradle, I'm just going to continue to walk my feet together, my legs together, until the point I can cross my feet. I'm basically just going to do this with my feet, and I'm going to crawl forward. Cross my feet, and I just crawl forward, and then I can look to see where his shoulders are at. I had a friend named Antonio Mangione who wrestled at Del Barton High School in Jersey, and he did this to one of our guys on my high school team in the state or county quarterfinals, and they started doing push-ups here. And he actually gave up a few penalty points because it was very rude to do that. But in general, this is a move that works. Like I said, more of a fun one to do. Play around with your friends and practice and stuff like that, but it is practical at the same time. It does work. It is a real move. It's just what side? This way, right? Yeah. So Tony shoots. Again, same thing. I'm getting out to the side. Ideally, I want to get my foot behind his back leg as quick as I can. Sometimes I have to adjust. Sometimes it's like I'm here and then I'm here. But if I can get all the way to here right away, great. Crunch them together. And then if I have him here, if he falls to his side, it actually makes it a lot easier. Turn a tiny bit this way. But if you look at my feet, all I have to do is just cross my feet like that. And then from here, I'm just crawling forward, keeping my knees pinched. And then I can look back and actually see his shoulders, so I can tell when he's pinned. Sometimes it's hard to hold this. Tony, kind of kick. I can kind of keep him here, but eventually it gets hard to hold this. My legs are going to break. Need to be ready to bail out and face him. But again, this is kind of more of a fun technique, but there are times when I was in Big Ten semifinals, and I was in this position, and the regular cradle, I didn't have it, but I accidentally fell into a leg cradle, and I locked it up, and I got 2 points, and ended up kicking away, but I got the 2 back points, and then got out of the position, but I kind of just fell into it, and it wasn't like, oh, let me do this to try to be tough from a leg cradle. It just happened to happen. It happened to be there. So one more time, we'll go this way. So Tony shoots. Again, same thing we were doing on our regular cradle defense. Here, if I have to do it in 2 steps here, this knee has to be below his butt. If my knee's up here, I'm not going to get the pressure I need. So I got to do a deep squat here, start to crunch them together. If I get him to here and he's on his hip, this works really well. Got my shoes or my laces kind of laced together there. Now I just crawl forward. Again, now I can look back. I can see where his shoulders are at. If I have to push back, if I have to crawl forward, either way, I can see what I need to get the pin. So you're not going to see it all that often, but it is an option. Like I said, it's fun to hit. It's fun to know how to do. And sometimes you might fall into it accidentally. You might need it. So that's your leg cradle off of a single leg. All right, now continuing on with our neutral defense cradles, we're going to get into a couple off of the high crotch position. So Tony's going to get in on the high crotch on me. And if you remember before when we were in the crackdown, I was saying how important it is to keep your shoulder in the hip from the offensive perspective. So Tony in general wants to keep this shoulder inside. If this shoulder starts to come to the outside, I go from fighting his whole upper body to only fighting his arm here, and this is where people can get the angles here. There's a lot of ways I can score or defend. I can sprawl back. A lot of different things I can do here. But turn your hips there. So in general, so that's what Tony wants. He wants his shoulder in. Defensively, you would think then, right, I want his shoulder out. He wants his head up. I want his head down. All those same kind of things we've been talking about all day. If he wants something, I want the opposite of it almost always. So from here, one way to get to that position is I'm going to take my free hand. Well, I guess both hands are free right now, but my opposite side hand of the leg he's on, so my left hand is going to go to his right armpit, and I'm going to lower my level and kind of scoot my hips to the side. At the same time, I'm going to push his shoulder to the side. Here, as I squat down, what that does, my hip blocks him from being able to regain that. If I were to stay up here and just bring our shoulder back in, if I just push his shoulder to the side, he can fight it back in pretty easily because his body's going to be stronger than my arm. But if I get here, now I'm blocking off his arm. It's going to be really hard. He can't get it back in. He's not going to be able to get that back in. Also, things that Tony would want ideally is he wants his head up, his hips in, and his back straight. He wants to be here. As soon as I push that shoulder out and crunch my weight down, it eliminates all of those things here. I come here, his head goes down, his back is bent, his hips are out. All right, now from here, position that we've seen a lot today, we have our cradle on the far side. As soon as I get him crunched down here, I don't want to give him time to knee slide and regain his position. As soon as I get this shoulder out and I crunch him here, my hand's going to come across over his shoulder, other hand's going to come under the leg, and we're going to lock up our far side cradle, and we're going to take him backwards. All right, you can try messing around with some other directions, but you're going to have to make really big adjustments afterwards. So we're going to take him back, and as we come through, as we come through, we can adjust back to our regular cradle position that we've been going over all day. So you're taking them backwards with a little roll with your leg locked out there a little bit, right? A little bit. So from this angle, you saw how I cleared the shoulder. Now you can kind of see how we're locking it up on this side. In general, I don't want to be standing up tall here. I'm going to take my outside hand. I got to move my hips, and I'm going to push with my hand, and I'm going to squat down all at the same time and get weight into them. So my back leg's kind of driving towards the camera right now. We got them crunched in. Arm comes over, arm comes under, and we're going to roll back this way. Watch your leg. All the way through. Now from here, I don't want to be perpendicular or parallel with him. You can just get my knee in the side. And again, right where we were at from the very beginning, working to get our finish here. Try this side. So here, again, blocking in the arm here. I can also use this hand, the other hand, to kind of help push his head out of the way if he's really strong in this position. A lot of times I don't have to, but I can. This hand otherwise isn't really doing anything. So here, again, level change. Notice I'm driving off this leg, getting pressure back into him. Hard for him to regain his position. I don't want to hang out here and allow him to adjust and regain better position. So as soon as I'm set, hand comes across the neck, other hand comes under the leg. We're locking. And again, I'm going to roll towards his back here. I'm not stopping here. I got to keep going all the way through. To here, once we get settled here, ideally, notice where my lock is. It's near his knee. If I can, I'm going to punch this deep to my elbow. It's hard to get that when we're on our feet, but as I get down to the ground, we can adjust this. Then my knee goes in the side, forehead above his ear, and we can finish there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Remember, we want our lock as close as we can get it towards his neck. It's hard to get it's hard to get that on this cradle when we're on our feet, just because of where my lock is. Notice my hand's way down here. My armpit or my elbow pit can't get to the back of there. So when we do get to the ground, I'm gonna punch that deep. So I can here punch that, oops, sorry, not punch Tony in the face, punch the elbow pit deep, and now we're in better position to finish our cradle. So, key thing here, you gotta get the shoulder out of the hip. You don't get the shoulder out of the hip, you're not gonna be able to get the angle you need. We're not gonna be able to compromise his position. So shoulder comes out, we level change, pinch that shoulder off so he can't get his position back, immediately coming over the head, coming under the leg, rolling to the back. And you have to make that adjustment as you're rolling there because you're going to end up parallel. We need to kind of create that space, adjust our knee, adjust your head, adjust your lock, finish your cradle. All right, so another cradle option that we have from our high crotch defense here. On the first one, what we did is we went to our far side cradle where I blocked off the shoulder and we attacked back into him on this side. Sometimes this isn't an option. If he's just got a little bit better positioning, I can't crunch him down this way. If I can get him to here, this is great. I would love to get here. But a lot of guys notice this is coming. They'll either extend themselves out, we'll get that leg far away, and I'm going to get to the point where I'm not going to be able to lock up a cradle here. So if that's the case, another option we have here is to attack the other leg. All right, I can attack a near side cradle. And the way we're going to do that is the same way as far as clearing the shoulder. I can't do anything if I don't have this shoulder cleared because what it does is it keeps space from me being able to reach his legs. If we start to like kind of bend over a little bit there and keep the shoulder in, here, if I'm trying to reach any of his legs, his shoulder is blocking me. It limits my length. And it also, it eliminates the ability of me to create an angle. And what I mean by an angle is getting to the side here. To get a cradle, I need an angle. I can't lock a cradle from straight in front of him. If he keeps his shoulder in and he's successful with that, I can't get any kind of angle. I'm not going to be able to lock up any sort of cradle. It doesn't matter how long my arms are. I might be able to lock them, but I'm not going to have anything. So with that in mind, Tony's in good position. From here, I'm going to break that position again by getting the arm out. Same thing, get my shoulder back into him. But maybe this leg was too far away. I couldn't reach it. So what we can do, if I can't reach to lock up a cradle here, another thing we can do is attack this near leg with we call this like a re-high crotch. One of my former teammates, a good friend of mine, Chase Pammy, was really good at this. Another one of my teammates, Ethan Lezak, was also very good at this. Both of them have videos in the store. Worth checking out their stuff too. But and I might be doing it wrong, so Chase call me out if I am. But still fighting back into him. Again, can't lock up this far side cradle. So instead, I'm going to level change. I'm going to lock my hands on this near leg. So we both basically have a high crouch now. Both of us have our shoulders out. I have my head higher than his, and I should have a better position than him because we just compromised his position. The goal now is to get height. Higher guy's going to win here. I'm going to lock my hands. I'm going to bring his leg up here. From here, I don't like having my fingers locked right. I don't like my my lock being right at the joint of his knee. So I'm going to sink my back arm deep and then lift it back up. So circle this way from here. Now, in this position, I can start to bring his knee towards his head. I'm going to take my free hand or my front hand or whatever I want to call it, my right hand, same side hand that he has my leg, and we're just going to crash towards our cradle here again. As soon as I get this high, I should be able to finish this cradle. The only way that I'm not going to get it is if he lets go of my leg and tries to turn away. Yeah, but he's going to give up a takedown. Guys get stubborn here. They want to stay and try to fight for the position. That's stupid on his part. We're coming over the head, locking up our hands, and then we can just drive him over. I can come over here. I can hook this leg, or we can finish the same way we have been, up on our toes. So the key on this is getting that height. When I get in, when we both have the high crotch, technically we have the same thing. If he were to stand up with it, he could do the same thing to me. So it's important that as soon as he doesn't know what the game plan is here, he's trying to finish a high crotch. As soon as I reach in and grab his leg, lock my hands, come up, or as soon as I lock my hands, it's important I get up as quick as I can. So again here, I compromise this position, get nice and low, lock in the crotch or in the leg here, up right away. Sink the elbow deep. Now I'm in good shape here. That allows me to let go of my lock and now attack the head. He can keep my leg if he wants. Drive into him. Finish our cradle. Try it from this angle. So he shoots in. Here, again, I gotta get this shoulder out. If I don't get his shoulder out of the hip, I can't get the steps 2, 3, 4 here. So shoulder comes out. Inside hand goes inside his hip. I lock just so I can lift. Then from here, I don't want to keep this lock like this. One, it's not very strong. But two, if I'm here, if I have a grip like this, I'm not going to be able to get this cradle. I need to sink that elbow pit deep. Now we can attack the head and drive him over. Again, he can keep that leg if he wants. Doesn't matter to me. We're going to pin him anyway. One last time towards the camera. Here, again, beat this shoulder. That's the most important part. If you don't do this, you can't do any of the rest of it. Here, nice and low, arm comes in, hands locked, elevate, armpit deep or elbow pit deep, attack the head, drive him over, adjust, and finish our pin. So, again, key thing on both of these high crotch cradles, we have to beat the shoulder. And then we're going to take what he's given us, just like we've been doing all day. If he's going to give me the far side cradle, we'll take it. If he's defending that well, we'll take the near side cradle. So a couple different options if our opponent's in on a high crotch to get to our cradle. Finishing up here we were on our feet for the high crotch. A couple different cradles we could do on our feet from the high crotch. Now let's look at the defense side from the crackdown in the high crotch. Also a very common position. Tony takes a shot on me. We end up in this crackdown position. Now from here, as I mentioned before, the keys that he wants here, normally he wants his inside hip down, outside hand posted, but he wants his shoulder in. All right. If he's adjusting, looking for different finishes down here, his butt might come up, his hand might move for a little bit, but his shoulder should almost always be in. There's not very many reasons why his shoulder should come out with him allowing it to or wanting it to. So with that in mind, we're going to do the same thing we did when we were on our feet, and we want to get his shoulder out, all right? And basically the way we do that is the same way we did on our feet. I'm going to take my left hand again. I'm going to go right in the back of his armpit, and I'm going to try to scoop my hips. Right now, my weight's pretty even on both my butt cheeks. I want to try to get everything onto my right butt cheek, get my left butt cheek up. At the same time, I'm going to do this kind of adjustment where I'm pushing his shoulder out, and then I'm going to come to a body lock after I get his shoulder out. This other hand's just going to kind of stay tight here, but our goal is to get that shoulder out. So what I mean by that is here, scooting, scooting, scooting. All right, I got the shoulder out. Now I can go back to my body lock position here. But now this leg is free. I'm not literally just sitting on my butt. I'm on my inside butt cheek here. From here, we're going to continue to work to drive him up, I guess, towards his head. And he's going to continue to work. This is a position in wrestling. If you sat down and watched much wrestling, both guys are working here. Usually the guy in my position is trying to fight for a stalemate, or he's looking to do what I'm doing right now and try to scoot behind and just get a reversal. If Tony's still committed to trying to score, like he's going to be working here. Typically he's not just sitting here. He's actually in a better position, so he's not usually just going to sit still. He's going to be adjusting and working to try to score. At the same time, I'm sitting here trying to scoot. So we're in this kind of battle here. We're in this position where like I'm fighting, he's fighting, and we're both kind of working on our position. My goal here is to scoot his hips up far enough that I can get my foot behind his back leg. Right now he's a little too far away, so I have to continue to scoot. But let's assume that I scooted far enough forward that I can step behind his leg. If I can get behind his leg, I have one foot inside and one foot outside. As soon as I get that, I can adjust towards his head. If I can adjust towards his head, that means my other hand can come back below his hamstring, and we're just going to continue to scoot. And what can happen here, and what normally happens, is people won't grab the head. They'll come here, and they'll just continue to come this way. They'll end up on top with a leg in. But if we want to get a cradle, this is very similar to the position we were in on the low single before, where his head is down, but our knee isn't over the top of his head. Still using his back knee to drive. So here, drive. Now in this position, my back knee was driving in the back of his hamstring. Now his hip collapsed a little bit. I can still use my back leg to drive him forward. Now I got my hands locked. Leg can come out. We can come here, and then we can come out on top. This is a position that requires a little bit of effort. It's not like you do one step and then you're there. You got to kind of keep scooting your butt until you can get them to a position where you can come over the head and you can get those hands locked. So again, he's in here. He's got his hip in, or his shoulder in. He's in good position right now. I need to get that shoulder out. Well, so say I was starting here with my weight even. This leg comes back. What this does allows me to kind of turn my hips. As I'm turning my hips, scooting here, getting my hips to the outside. As I'm doing that, my goal is to get this foot behind him so I can use my knee to drive in the back of his hamstring. After I get that, my hand's gonna follow here, scooting, driving now. Now I'm kind of crumpling them up into kind of like an accordion here. Then once I get them to the point where I know my hands can lock, walk them over, let go of the leg. Now we're here, hands are locked. Some people stay here. I don't like to stay here. I don't really have any reason to tell you not to, but I just don't like being on my back. So I adjust and come here. One more time. Actually like a side angle. So here, Tony's in good position. I can't do anything from here as long as his shoulder is in. So outside leg bends back here so I can use it to drive off of. My inside arm is pushing off that inside of his armpit. And sometimes I will post this hand to help me. I can't leave this here because he's going to grab it. If I do post this, it's just for a second and I'm coming back. But my goal is to get this back leg, turn, you can see that back leg. Go, keep going. There. So my goal is to get this leg to here. Now, once I get to here, go ahead and wrestle with me a little bit. Now, I can scoot. Now, once that far shoulder collapses, it's only a matter of time now because he can't get up. He has no way to continue to move forward. So I can kind of take my time now. Just adjust, lock my hands, foot comes out, and finish our curl. So very similar to our low single defense. It's on the opposite leg, and his head wasn't underneath, but we're doing the same concept with using our back leg to kind of push his body together, pushing his butt and his legs up towards his head. And ultimately, when that pressure gets too much, because he's holding on to the leg, and eventually once my hips start getting further and further away from him, he has to drop to this shoulder. And then from that part, I'm pushing his body up over top. That's what makes it so I can lock on the cradle. His other option is just to completely let go of my leg, and then I'll get my takedown. And that's where the battle comes in wrestling sometimes. You hold on a little too long, try not to give up any points, and then you end up getting put on your back, possibly pinned. And so that's what we're hoping when we're doing this. So we got to beat that shoulder, scoot our hips, get that knee behind his hamstring, push his legs together until we can get that lock, and then we'll finish the cradle. All right, so getting back to that crackdown position. On the previous one, we worked to beat the corners, what we'll call that, most of the time from crackdown. Like I said, a lot of times guys are going to just get their 2 points there. If Tony holds on too long and refuses to give up the 2, that's when the cradle is really going to become available. Another opportunity that we can get to from here, if he's on the crackdown, another thing that he will try to do is he'll try to get his head underneath. He's going to try to come get height then, come out the back, and get his takedown here. Very common that guys will try to do that. It works. It's not easy. If the guy in my position is getting the right pressure, it can be difficult. And that's what my goal is, to be getting the right pressure here. But if I'm sitting on my left butt cheek here, there's no weight on my leg. Tony's gonna be able to get my foot in the air pretty easily. But turn the other way. Well, it doesn't matter, but here, that's good. So if my foot's right here, I can't really get any pressure into the back of his neck. So, but when I start to turn my knee here, and I can drive back in. Now I can get a little bit more weight on the back of his head. Now we're back where we were when we were on the low single defense, where his head's trapped. We're just on the opposite side. Now from here, if I can get to this position, I would like to get off my butt here. If he's starting to try to come underneath, he's going to be trying to come up. As he's doing that, I'm going to start to come up here. All right, and now it's one of those positions, and it's kind of a race. If I wait too long, he's going to be able to get his head up. But now, once I got my hips higher than his, I'm holding myself in, anchoring myself in. We're going to do the same thing that we did on our single leg side, where I need to get this knee behind his hamstring. How I'm going to do that can be a couple different ways. If this leg's posted, I might have to lock in the crotch coming over around his waist and the near side, just to help me get a little bit of leverage. Here, scoot, scoot, scoot. All right, even if my knee isn't, or my toe isn't completely on the inside, as long as my knee's here, that's a good start, because then I can start to adjust. Now my toe can come in. Now from here, now we're back in our leg cradle position. From here, same thing, opposite side. Get my laces together, crawl forward, and I can look back and see where he's pinned. So, and knowing that I can do the leg cradle, know also that you can do your regular cradle that we did. Same exact thing as our single leg side. I can reach my arms through between his neck and my foot, and I should be able to lock up the regular cradle. But the leg cradle is more fun, so we'll do that. So, again, here Tony starts to get his head underneath. If I'm just sitting back like this, and I don't have any pressure into him, he's going to be able to finish this. He's going to finish that no problem. So this is a position, the crackdown position, a lot of people, younger wrestlers, aren't super familiar with. I need to use this foot. The leg he has, I can't do too much with that right now, but I need to get off of just sitting on my butt here. So I can get some height here. I can get this foot underneath me. As soon as he commits to going under my leg, he took his shoulder out of the hip, and he kind of changed the position. So I'm not required to sit in this position anymore once his head goes under. If his head's up and he's back in a regular crackdown, now I'm a little bit more limited. I can scoot my hips a little bit, but in general, I'm kind of limited here. As soon as his head goes under, he just changed the position. Now we're in a low single position, technically, on my weak side. So I might not be as familiar with this, but if I've wrestled it all in this position, played around in here, I should be able to get a little bit, see a little bit of familiarity with the things that I would see on my low single side. So here, again, kind of locking myself in. My leg's got to travel quite a bit of distance here, but I can lock, I can pull him up over his head. As I do that, that's going to help me get this angle to get the top of my knee and the back of his hamstring here. Here, and pull, there. Got it locked in. Now, like I said before, I can come over the top and lock up my cradle, but the way that he's kind of situated right now, it'd actually be hard for me to get my arm in. So in this situation, it might actually make more sense for me to go leg cradle. So off my butt, driving forward. Here, lock my feet together and crawl until I can see that he's pinned. Keep everything nice and tight. Oops, sorry, I'm getting kicked in the back. So one last time. We'll go straight on. So again, he comes under. As soon as his head goes under, just think about it this way. He no longer has a crackdown. He just turned it into a low single. So if he turned into a low single, no reason for me to sit here. Lock. Bring him straight over his head. Hook that foot in. Now bring him back to his hip. Feet laced together. And again, to finish, I'm just crawling forward. That's all I have to do. And again, I can look back and I can see where the cradle or where his shoulders are. So, like I said, we can also lock up that other cradle there, but just the way he's situated, sometimes there's no space to get your hand in there. So this might be an example of where the leg cradle would make more sense than trying to force a regular cradle. But so this is just another option we have off the crackdown. If he's coming under our leg and trying to elevate, we need to get weight on it first. And we got to focus on trying to scoot our hips enough that we can get that back leg, get our knee in the back of his hamstring, crunch them together, bump him to his far hip, lace our shoes together, crawl forward, get a pin with a leg cradle. All right, guys, we just finished up about 3 hours of cradles. Cradles from the mat, from top, a few from bottom. from our feet when we're on offense, went over from our feet on defense. So a ton of different positions where we're going over ways to pin our opponent. And today I didn't focus too much on the finishing of the cradle. We went over a few of the key details to that. But really what I wanted to give you was just a whole bunch of different situations where you're going to be able to cradle your opponent. And it's just key to be able to know that in a match when you need a pin. When you're down big late in a match, it's good to be able to know that defensively on your feet, offensively on your feet, from bottom or from top, there are options that you can pin somebody with a cradle. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I want to thank my partner, Tony Tolbert, for helping me as usual. Tony, give him your stuff here.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TonyStark70kg_.
And Tony, you have a video, right?
Yeah, I have a video on duck unders, and I also have a video with a branch company, Strong and Fit, with my dad, who's a personal trainer. So if you guys are looking to get in shape before the season, stay in shape during the season, or post-season, definitely check that out. I train at the New York Regional Training Center. So Jordan Oliver, Coach Kendall Cross, Valentine, we all have videos with Fanatics. So definitely check those out.
Yeah, guys, please make sure you're checking out the library, fanaticwrestling.com, bjjfanatics.com. Make sure you get on Tony's video. And then as for myself, if you guys like this video, I have a lot more than like a dozen other videos out there focusing on different facets of wrestling. So again, if you like this, please check out some of those other ones. And I would ask that if you do like the video, please leave a review. If you're watching my video, I don't need you to leave the best review ever. It's just important that you leave a review, an honest review. For any time you're watching these videos, it really helps the customers, and it really helps us as clinicians understand what we need to do better too. So with that in mind, if you guys would like to get in touch with me on social media, my Instagram is vmont165, on Facebook on Facebook Dan Valamont, and on Twitter at Dan Valamont. If you have any questions on anything you saw or anything from any of my videos, please feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Last thing I have to do, since I work for the company here, I also have to encourage you guys, if you're not doing so already, subscribe to the Fanatic Wrestling YouTube channel. We've got a ton of free content on there from some of the best wrestlers in the world. Also, make sure you're following or liking our Facebook group. Join our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. We're always posting new content in all those places. Really trying to grow the company. So as always, it's a pleasure working for Fanatic Wrestling and BJJ Fanatics. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.